if we would have known what it took to build this business, we would never have done it
Right.
because the amount of hours, the missed birthdays, the blood, just like literal blood, we're getting tetanus shots and, while we're building out, it's just so demanding.
This is the Wine and Dine Me podcast. Forget the etiquette. No rules, just real talk. Today on the podcast, I have Jessica Connolly. Jessica is co-founder and creative director of Social Supply Design, an experiential design and build studio known for transforming spaces into immersive environments for events, brands, and venues across the country. What began as a small creative operation in Washington, D.C., has grown under Jessica's leadership into a multi-million-dollar national firm producing large-scale, high-touch builds for hospitality, entertainment, and luxury clients. Under Jessica's direction, the company evolved from a design-forward studio into a full-scale design and production powerhouse, recognized for its craftsmanship, consistency, and ability to execute complex ideas at scale. Her work sits at the intersection of art direction, architecture, and emotional storytelling, with a strong emphasis on materials, proportion, and how people move through and feel within a space. For Jessica, design is only successful when it is both beautiful and buildable. Welcome to the podcast. Well, it's good to see you.
You too. How you been?
Good. Thank you for doing this right before Christmas.
Oh my gosh, no, I tried to fit it in. I was like, if I put it off, then I don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Jessica, I'm so excited to have you because, well, one, we were lucky enough to sit next to each other at Ornament Exchange recently, and that was just really special for me. I just love to get to know you on that level, and I just feel like you and I could have talked forever. We went deep.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
then
I can get a little,
don't. Are you
frustrated.
kidding? No. I'm always here for it. So let's just start with your path to getting into this line of work and design. It's very unconventional. So let's just start from the beginning. How did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, so we'll probably hit on this later, but I would like to say I'm a pretty big risk taker. I wouldn't say that I started off that way. But I just found myself drawing and becoming very bored. So I started off at the Secretary of Defense's office and I thought that's exactly what I wanted to do, but I got there, it was dark, there was no windows, and I just found that there was no purpose for me every day. While I think people around me found that purpose, I just didn't feel the same. And I really wanted to honor my next steps. I was a new mom, my son was a year old, and I really wanted to carve a path for him where he could see you don't have to do what school tells you to do or what, my mom's Korean and just growing up in that environment, it was doctor, lawyer, government. I mean, it was a very limited field and art was just not the thing. So, while I had really wanted to study art, growing up and go to college for that, it just wasn't an option for me. So I went the traditional route, got a job in the government, and just again quickly found that it just wasn't for me. So I quit my job, started wedding planning, worked for a really sweet girl here locally, and really fell in love with the process and felt like it was for me. I think for me at the time, I realized like my need for making people happy. That to me was just like everything. If I could do that every day, I felt so fulfilled. And then you and I kind of connected on this. I went through a really rough divorce and then it just didn't feel right anymore. Like I knew I loved events. I knew I wanted to design. I wanted to be around it. But to me, the client facing didn't seem as natural anymore because I was going
Mhm.
through tough stuff. So for me at the time, pink flowers didn't really matter, even though I found my way back to them now. But I was
Right.
just going through some tough stuff. And I wanted to really figure out what was next. And to me, that was like the build portion of production.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I feel like I took two big risks. The second time was a little harder because I had a stable job that I was making more money. My son was a little older, and naturally at that age, you want to be around more. So starting a business, was, again, super unconventional. I quit my job. Ryan quit his job. We moved in with our parents. We took out loans. We maxed out our credit cards. Yeah, it was wild. You just have to kind of jump all in though and just trust the process.
That's, I think, really scary and daunting for people is to jump all in, and I do feel like that is the one thing that holds you back from true success is being all in or not. And I love the analogy of, swinging from branch to branch. And unless you fully let go of whatever branch is behind you, you can't fully leap for the one ahead of you.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things. I think obviously you have to be really willing to take the risk, but you have to be comfortable with the pitfall that happens afterwards. Because I think that's what a lot of people aren't prepared for. And
Mhm.
what's funny is that my dad would used to tell me this quote by Famous Amos, and Ryan and I say it all the time. If we would have known what it took to build this business, we would never have done it.
Right.
Because the amount of hours, the missed birthdays, the blood, just like literal blood, we're getting tetanus shots and, while we're building out, it's just so demanding. Now it's so rewarding and I would love to coach people how to get there, but you
Mhm.
have to be ready for it and you have to
Right.
be all in. So I
Well,
think
and I think
it's important.
the piece that we shared is that life-changing, process of going through a divorce and how that can give you some clarity. And on one hand, you don't have a choice but to plow ahead and to just do what you need to do. But then it also gives you a heightened sense of how important it is to be in alignment with your work. And, you've really I feel like the alignment and the desire for alignment has really driven you, um, into what you're doing now and to the levels of success that you've achieved.
Yeah, I love that you state it in that manner because, just approaching it with intention is so important to me. And what we do is so demanding. And again, I know a lot of careers and industries are demanding. And for me, it was about making that time intentional. If I was going to be away from my son, it had to be something that I loved. And I think that's such a hard thing for people to understand that you really can't achieve that in this world today. But I also think it's a lot about how you look at the world and look at the opportunities that are given to you. Because I think a lot of people are missing them and it's right in front of them. So,
Yeah, totally. Well, let's talk about that purpose you talked about. So, one of the things that you've said is your approach is deeply to design, is deeply rooted in execution and emotion, which I love. So, you design and you produce with purpose. And you say that a space must be well designed and functional. So, tell us why that is so important.
yeah, I love this question. It's actually rooted in most of my um, uh, first calls with my clients. It's just for me, design without function is just decoration. It's just not the same. And to me personally, it's almost impossible for me to design without some type of form. And now there we can talk about a lot of ways you can do that, but inherently design is about solving problems. So in events, a lot of times it is how are people experiencing the event? How are you creating the flow of the event? How are you moving them through the space? And these are questions that I like to ask my clients like, what are you trying to solve? What is your biggest hang up? Is it the space itself? Is it maybe there's a couple people in the family that don't get along and you have to just make sure that they're, experiencing it, but maybe not together. But I think, again, like if you think about the root of the issues, if we're trying to solve problems, it's actually quite scientific. If you look back at, again, spatial challenges, um, it just the function has to work in order for it before it can move people. Um, I think even if somebody doesn't know design very well, it almost creates a sense of ease, right? It's almost like a flow. They're not seeing hiccups in the space. They know how to gather. They know when to pause. They know where to go. I like to say this a lot, but it's kind of like herding sheep through a space without them really knowing it, because you can't tell them
I
that.
love that. That's
Um,
so true.
and you do that through visual effort and, again, the experiences that you bring into the space. So I also feel that It's so important that if people can't fully feel it, then it's really not a good design. So they really have to experience it, and be there. And I think the biggest thing that we're trying to create is a moment. So I think in a world where we're so digital, it's so important for us to take a step back. And I think honestly, a nod to ornament exchanges, all of us are always in the thick of it all the time. Some of us work crazy hours, late hours, weekends, nights. And it is really hard for us to take a step back and enjoy it. And that's what we were really trying to create.
When did you realize that design had to perform and breathe and live rather than just be decoration? Did you learn that in your wedding planning days? Did you feel that disconnect? Because there's plenty of people who just decorate and then it doesn't perform.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the wedding planning days because I love to say that's the root of why we design the way we do at Social Supply. I think it's really important to understand our client base. Like you said, people can stylize a room, but until you understand how people interact with the space, the first moment that they, enter the door, what's drawing them? Where is their natural path of egress? Where are they going to? What's drawing them in? What's getting them past the barrier, the first barrier? I think those are very natural and important things to again maximize on the space, make sure things are strategically placed. So I do think wedding planning had a lot to do with that and understanding again, what clients are after. I don't think it's the same for everyone. Some people like a really packed dance floor. So you have to design spatially around that, but still allow grandma a place to sit down. So again, that impact of understanding which each individual's goals are, which might be quite a bit because you're designing for a crowd of people. But I think, I would say I don't know if I really knew that when I was wedding planning. While I inherently knew that's what I was doing while I was planning, I think when I started to design, I was having a really difficult time starting out. I was hearing, "Oh, no, I wanna do this," but contradicting beliefs around, "But I also wanna have this." And so for me, it really became about listening to the client, truly listening to consistency. What I found is that a lot of times they don't even know why they like something or why they're naturally drawn to it. So what I'm looking for is a pattern of behavior or a pattern of consistent thoughts, and that's what really drives me to help the form and the function around it. So understanding again, my mom gets really warm in this space. She really doesn't like a lot of noise. Again, hearing these little nods to that will help me decide like the scale and volume of the room or where is the placement of all the speakers? How far is her table from the band? Those are very, very important things to really pick up on.
Mhm.
As well as, again, these forms are how you create the space, but it's all about that listening to what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even I would imagine, I mean, the conversations we have about family dynamics and comfort levels and how do you create a space that can bridge the gaps of potentially a divorced mother and father who are going to be there, but they need to be able to lounge separately, but also in the same space. So like how do you create these zones of comfort to navigate complicated dynamics or to bring together 2 families of very different backgrounds? How do we make them feel comfortable in new settings? Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I think if you start with a human component, the result is
Yeah,
always achievable. I think
yeah.
people tend to look at the design and they ignore the wants of the client. So, again, there's so many great designs everywhere. And I truly believe it is always starting with the client experience. I think, recently we collaborated on a reel with Sandomi, and I think it might have our most views. I think it just hit 2 million views.
Wow,
And
good.
what's interesting about that is it didn't start with the design. Everything was client all the guests' reaction. It was everybody walking into the space as they transition from cocktails to reception. So if we can just get that moment where people forget, "Oh, I don't really like that aunt because I'm having a cocktail and the music's really great, the food is so cool, and everything else is faded out." That's what we're trying to do.
So how do you this is something else that you said and I love, that having a good concept is one thing, but it's how you execute it is what matters. So how do you go from A to Z? How do you ensure an excellent execution of a brilliant concept?
Yeah. So I love this question. What I love to tell some of our clients that use this all the time have gotten to know us, gotten to know our rapport. But when we start out actually at our initial consultation, I really put it out there that this is honestly a dating game. Like, we're trying to get to know each other. I'm trying to understand your love language. Reagan, I want to know when you tell me that show ready's at 5 o'clock, I want to know when Reagan gets antsy. Because Reagan might get antsy at 1 p.m., not at show ready time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It really is communication for me and really breaking it down over and over and over, just trying to get, again, I'm looking for that consistency of what my clients are saying. So I think that asking a lot of questions, right? I think that's highly important. Blue means something different to everyone. um, Modern means something different. Again, I'm looking for consistencies between visual images, words that they're using, the color palette. And I think that's what really helps get us on the right start. And then again, going back to that part where we're kind of doing that love language thing where I'm trying to understand, you know, from an execution standpoint, I think that not only the result of the tangible product, which we'll get to, but I think the client experience is everything. Because you can lose a client a month in without even getting to the tangible product. So a
Right.
lot of the questions that we love to ask is, you know, what are your pet peeves? Is it a client not a vendor not getting back to you? Is it not getting consistent updates? Is it feeling out of the loop? Um, is it feeling again like we're not listening to you? I love knowing what those things are so I can get ahead of them and kind of create a client portfolio to say, okay, Reagan really doesn't like when we don't email her. So you got it. Even if you don't have an answer, please email her and say, hey, we're on it. We're going to get back to you soon. Or this is where we're stuck.
Yeah.
And I think also too, understanding what your goals are, because I think naturally most of our clients are planners. Understanding how each one of our clients operate and what their goals are so different.
Mhm.
I think honing in on that and truly understanding what they mean when they say it is how we deliver not only for the end client, which is looking for the tangible result, but for a repeat client as a planner. So I think again, active listening, cutting off the noise. I think a lot of times design can be so distracting. You get a Pinterest page of 800 images, but again, you're honing in to say, no, tell me why you really like this. And let's take it to your top five. I just want to know what feeling do you draw out of it?
Yeah.
Because I think that there is a lot of noise that you can get lost in.
You really, as you're just saying this, all I can think about is you're like a therapist who you're like a design therapist and you're pulling out the true essence of like, what does somebody mean? They don't even know how to convey what it is that they want and what they feel. And so you're drawing that out of them. And I think that makes a lot of
Love
sense
that.
because you even mentioned that so much of what you do is emotional storytelling. And so I love how you get into the psyche and the emotion and the spirit and the soul because yeah, events are flat without any of that. I think this is a great time for me to ask you the question regarding ornament exchange. The pressure of designing for a room full of very talented designers and planners, how do you approach it? How did you cut out the noise and achieve the unachievable, which I will say everyone is still talking about. Everyone is still talking about.
Thank you so much. I mean, it can quite intimidating. You're in a room full of people who just have so much talent. It's crazy. I mean, the amount of talent in that room is just wild. So, I just, I didn't go into the space or go into my design thinking about competing with anyone. And
That's
naturally, I think
good.
in the beginning, you have this like urge to over design. You're doubting yourself. You're thinking, are you good enough? Are you clever enough? Is it going to be too simple? Oh my God, how much is this going to cost me? What do I have to do? You're like chasing approval and you're chasing things that don't exist. We create them, we create our own story, and we allow that to happen internally. And I think for me, it was just about pivoting that to ensure, okay, my core idea out of all of this and to get Ryan's sign off is to connect with people in that room, is to connect with them, get them to know Social Supply, get them to know me So I kind of took a step back and I was like, okay, where am I going to go with this? We started with a design. Ultimately, last minute, we had to change the design to a couple of things. And we didn't have a lot of time. So I started thinking back. I'm like, okay, with the vintage theme, what can I go with? And funny enough, my parents took me to a party when I was little. It was every year, and it's so interesting because I really wanted to ensure. I think what's very successful is a little bit of novelty because everybody in that room has already seen everything. But to connect with them, I needed nostalgia. I needed to like hit at the heartstrings because if not, it was just going to be another dead design, another party. So ultimately, I went back to this party that I went to as a kid, and the front room was um, the more approachable space. It was like the living room where all the adults would mingle and get together. They would have pass hors d'oeuvres. It was really like the wine hour was obviously the first portion of the ornament exchange. And then there was kind of like this rite of passage moment where we had to take a picture with Santa before moving to the little disco ball party room. So that was honestly the vision for all of this.
I love it.
I just thought, why not go back to a moment where it just felt like kind of innocent for me in a lot of ways? And, that's what Christmas really is. It's like people are inherently good. They want good for others. They want to feel good. And that was a moment where I was like around my family and everything felt great. And that's exactly what I wanted people to feel.
I love that, and it can translate into weddings when you focus on nostalgia. And, the
Yes.
questions we ask a lot of, let's talk about some of your favorite moments as a couple, or what were those travel moments where it just lives in your brain, and it could have just been a simple lunch in a beautiful setting, but, like, let's dissect that. What is it? So, that nostalgia is so important, and when you can focus in on that, sometimes the scene is already set, then you just have to bring it to life.
Yeah. I love that. I know that you had asked about the vintage fridge, actually.
Yes.
And
Yes, I love that.
so that actually was a core memory from that party. They would actually stock the fridge with beer and champagne. And for some reason, I thought it was cool to steal beer out of the fridge. So I stole 2 beers with my best friend. And we tried one beer and we hated it, but we didn't know what to do with the other one. So I brought it home and hid it. And then, of course, my mom finds it.
That's
But
great.
again, those are just like those moments where, you think back, and I don't know if I was probably like 13.
Mhm. Mhm.
But those are like the little moments that you bring there because maybe somebody else had a moment very similar to that.
Yeah. But what was
Again,
so
it just
cool about the vintage fridge was you made that design element immersive. So you all chose to put a cocktail inside so that people got the experience of opening the refrigerator, pulling something out, like truly living that memory.
I think that's so important. The tangible part of it all is the experience. It is that moment of opening it up and saying, "I wonder what could be in here." Whether it's the element of surprise or again, the moment of going to get your grandma or your dad a beer, back then. But yeah, I think
Yes.
that's what obviously we're really after is creating moments.
Yeah. I love that. Um, you talk a lot about travel and how that shapes your inspiration and ideas. And you wrote this to me. You said, travel slows me down, sharpens my awareness, and reminds me that the most powerful spaces are often the simplest, most intentional ones. So, can you touch on that statement and also how travel inspires you?
Yeah, so this one hits a little close to home because I work so much that oh my gosh, I'm gonna tear up. But I feel that travel's the only time where I can take my family away and unplug. Where I have my son, I have Ryan, and the three of us are just lost in a moment, and I can actually try to ignore an email or a Slack or anything that's just popping up the next fire. So I think without question, travel really is when I'm the most present and I'm feeling the moment and experiencing it. I think that every place has like every country, every city, every cafe shop, every bar has its own rhythm, its own mood. Um, and you can't recreate that, but you can experience it and you can create a vision out of that. And that's what I love about travel is that it's never the same, which
Mhm.
no event is ever the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just love that you can take so much of that in a lot of ways, not only experiencing it, but tangibly tiles that you're finding from in Portugal, how they're slurring walls in another country. Like, what material are they using that we're not even keen on or that we know about here in the States? Those are kind of some elements that I really like hone in on. I mean, when my husband travels, I mean, he touches everything. Like, I wonder what this is made out of. And he's like staring at it. So my son will be like, Ryan, bro, it's time to go. He calls him bro. It's his stepdad, so it's kind of stuck. But he's like, "Bro's over there staring at the wall again." So I'll have to like peel him off the wall. He said, "Wait, babe, you have
Amazing.
to see. This is so cool. It's made out of OSB." So we love materiality. We love that in foreign countries, especially some that don't have the equipment that we have, they are so freaking smart and how they can create something like woodwork with their hands. I mean, it is just so wild. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah. I love that. Do you once you've done all of the talking, the listening, the client intake, and you have that download, what how do you get into a creative mind space? What's next? How do you get into design mode?
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like a simple answer, but I do a morning ritual every morning, and it's before the deadline set in. It's before the design decks. I try to start with a little bit of stillness, and whether it's just setting myself up as a leader for the day or setting myself up to really be into design that day, I give myself a little bit of calm first. And then I start really meditating on what do I want the space to feel like? What is the energy in the room? What are people doing? And start really envisioning the energy of the room. And I think that's what really helps me start transforming the purpose of the space, and then from there, I go back to problem solving mode. And then that problem solving mode is again how I start architecting the space. So I think it starts again at stillness and the feeling. Again, always back to client experience.
That's so cool. I think that's really hard, especially for someone who has a staff of 75. You imagine have a million things going through your mind, which actually that could be a good segue to one of the things you're very open about and would like to talk more on is being an entrepreneur with ADHD, right? Like being an entrepreneur in general is hard enough. You're wearing all the hats. But how have you navigated this having ADHD and what does that look like for you?
Oh gosh, Reagan, it's taken me so long to get here. Being diagnosed early on, I still didn't quite understand it. And I think the world didn't really understand it in a lot of ways. Medication, medication, medication. Right. And I have no
Right.
yeah, I have no issues with that. But for me, it just never felt right. But nobody was openly talking about it. Nobody was talking about, what you're going through, what it looks like. It's crazy. I can lock into a design deck and really lock in for 6 hours, but I can't bring myself to make a doctor's appointment. I can feel super organized, have a whole map out of the day, but then like chaos takes over anyway. Like, oh, actually, right before this podcast, I lost my phone. Don't know where it is. It's somewhere here. My husband said you'll find it. But I think what's important is you have to start picking up. I start writing things down. You have to start picking up on your own triggers and things that um, help you and things that kind of help you, get off track. So the good things for me is that, my brain is really wired for connection, for ideas. It moves really, really fast. It's very intuitive. And these are things that it's taken me a long time to give myself grace to understand. Because I would never have really admitted that those are great things that can come out of it. Um, but it does require daily work. and structure is something that we've been working on so much. But one thing that's been, really, really important to me is hiring. I have to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success. So I am not shy to say I will hire someone smarter than me. I will hire somebody more organized than me. I will hire anybody who has certain abilities that I don't have so that my business can be successful. And I think that's really smart just to look at the things that you're not good at. And you can attempt and you can try to keep working on those things. But oftentimes, as a business owner, like you're saying, there's 75 people, you don't have all the time. So it's okay to let some of those things go and really lean on your team to make up the rest of that for you.
Yeah. I'm so excited to talk about this because as a small business owner, and most of our industry in the event industry are very small. Like I would say having a staff of 75 is very rare in our industry. And it's so impressive. And I just, oh my gosh, I have so many questions for you around it. But sometimes people fear what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, am I putting the cart ahead of the horse? How do I hire that person who I know I need when maybe I don't have the money to support them? Like that mindset, I think is holding a lot of people back.
Yeah, I really agree with you. Now, I'm not saying that our format is right for everyone. When Ryan and I started, we were 100% committed to where we gave up our condo, we gave up our jobs, we moved in with our parents. That is not for everyone. In fact, most people don't even have that opportunity. We were really, really, truly, my parents were so gracious and, we're really grateful for that. But a lot of people don't have that. They have to pay their bills, they have kids, they have, things that they're already committed to. So I think what it is, you have to really understand your means, but you also have to understand what you're good at and what your time is worth. There are people that can do things faster than you. And it might make sense to bring somebody on part time so that it can allow you to do the bigger things. Um, when we, again, first started, and I know you have a question on scale that I'd love to kind of answer. Um, I don't think that there's a correct roadmap that I could advise anyone because I think everybody's business is so different. For us, again, we
Right.
had the opportunity to where we didn't have to pay ourselves in the beginning and we could pour that into the product and we could pour that into people. But I don't think that's something that everybody has the ability to do. I do think
Sure.
there is a blend of the right time though.
Yeah. Well, you shared with me, and I was just totally blown away that Social Supply has consistently scaled 40 to 200% each year. It's unbelievable. What's the hardest part as of scaling a business? And then what is your like here we are at year end. How do you and Ryan like look at the end of the year and think, okay, how do we keep this growth going?
Gosh, it's hard. Um, where do I begin? I would say that well, I think if I could talk about the challenges around scaling for a production company, I mean, events in general, I think that first and foremost, the most difficult thing is that every job is a one off, right? Builds are 100% scalable and built around processes, repeatable products, predictable outcomes. And that is just not something we have on our side, right? We have
No.
fires, different
No.
client, new venue, a new location, a rainy date, new vendors. So I think for all of us, that in itself is very challenging. And then there's also the component of time. We worked on a compressed timeline. The date does very, very, very rarely move. um, there's overnight builds. There's emotions that are running high that lead to time constraint uh, issues. And the other third thing I would say that's a challenge around scaling is it's a huge emotional um, and creative, I would say, barrier. It's just a huge, huge load on us. I mean, you're just not delivering a product. You're literally delivering one person's dream of their entire life. And that's a lot of weight. And to do
Yeah.
it very fast and very quickly and at a very high performing level. Um, so you have the pressure to innovate consistently. You have to over deliver. You have to, you know, be creative. You have to make sure your team is doing exactly what they need to do every single time, and you got to do it fast. So I think those are our biggest contributors to not scaling as fast as we want to. Um, I would say the reason why I believe we've scaled, um, one component, unfortunately, I think was around COVID. I do think COVID did shut down a lot of industries as far, especially in ours, a lot of production houses, because we have a lot of equipment, we have a lot of overhead, and I think that was really difficult. And I was really sad to see a lot of people close their doors. When we came back from COVID, everybody was ready to be in person. So that was probably one of our biggest growth years. And we had to move really, really fast. Labor force was completely down. We couldn't get materials on anything, especially, birch, which is one of the materials that we use the most, and steel. Those were almost impossible to get. So margins were terrible, but we moved fast. And I would say that we never cut corners. I think at the heart of it, obviously, is the human moment, which we are completely honored no matter what the cost is to match and deliver. And I think our delivery and our product has been able what we've been able to produce each year and scale. Um,
That's amazing.
Thank you.
S
It's hard.
Speaking of the quality, one of the biggest decisions that you said that you made was bringing production all in-house and not compromising on the quality of the finished product. How did you do that? Did you do that all at once or gradually? I mean, I can imagine that was a big scary moment of how can we do this when you've been outsourcing it because that's taking on a ton of overhead.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, initially when we started off, we didn't intend to bring on production. We planned on outsourcing it. But I'll be honest, it's a little bit of fear and it's a little bit of control. That's what
Yeah,
started it. I just never felt like I was delivering a to my client. It was designed better than it was executed. And that to me was a major pitfall because I don't care how good your AI renderings that some people are using that they're getting. I don't care. We do our own in-house digital renderings. I don't care how good they are. Yes, they sell the client, but in the end, if the product is not better in person that everybody's experiencing, they're not going to use you again. So
right.
um, for us, we couldn't deliver that in the beginning, and I just felt so out of control. And I I sat Ryan down one day and I said, I really think that we need to look at this differently. So we pretty much upended our entire business model. And I took him to Home Depot. He didn't even know the difference between bolts and screws. Okay. So I had to teach this man where things were in Home Depot. But we built our first bar in his parents' garage. Client loved it. Quality wasn't what it was today, but it was a lot better than what we were getting. And we just kind of threw ourselves in completely. Ryan really started honing in on the build compartment of that. And we really just kept trying to look at the engineering and trying to change it. How do we change engineering? Everybody was doing pop up bars, where they fold out, it's on metal frame, they pop a print on the front. And I cannot tell you how much I hated them. And I was like, we have got to change the industry. We cannot show up with that type of product. And the client that we're after, we wanted interior grade products. So,
Right.
um, yeah. So what we did was, obviously we learned, and then we hired from there. Pretty much every single designer that we've hired on is come from industrial design or interior design. We on purpose did not hire from the industry because I wanted them to come with that great interior grade in mind, but I wanted to teach them the modular and efficiency, I guess you could say, of the event side. So it's kind of melding the two.
Yeah, I mean that is for from a planner's perspective, one of the hardest things to convey to a client who is a ultra luxury, very high end client who expects interior quality, but you have to explain to them that, this is a 5-hour event and these things are temporary. So how do you bridge the gap of something that's temporary with the expectation of an interior quality product. So you're doing that. Not many people are doing that. And there's nothing worse than paying top dollar for something that just fell out of the back of a truck and it's supposed to be custom because it's just like, painted, or even if it is a custom piece, even if it's a custom piece, still that level of quality is very, very temporary for, I think, the majority of rental companies out there.
Yeah, it is a very hard feat to
Mhm.
get into full custom production. It is difficult. I mean, the demand, the physical demand that I see on my team's faces at the end of the season, it is hard. But what we've started to try to do is we have a rental line where we have modified rentals, and then we have our luxury custom line. Now, both I would consider at the top end of the market. Every single product that comes off of our shelf gets bondo, sanded, and repainted every single time. And that's where we can keep our quality of our product, but still make it a rental. And it's just priced appropriately. And then we have our client who obviously is at the top end of the budget and wants something custom built. Well, you've got to look at it at the engineering in a lot of ways. And we do have two industrial designers. We have a production manager, technical director, and myself and Mariah know a lot about material. So it's consistently how can we get it for the cheapest cost without compromising on quality. So we really look at things. So if my client wants a custom bookshelf and they want it in stained wood, generally I'm not going to use a birch because of the pattern. I'm going to look at veneers. I'm going to look at hardwoods, just to see again cost differences, and then recommend my client the best approach, depending on again what their expectation level is. I think certain clients you can get away with a veneer, and certain clients no, they want full fledged, hardwood. And so I think you have to again understand what your client's willing to pay for, but then also make reasonable, exceptions. Where is the product going to be? How far is the client going to be experiencing from it? Like, where's the guest? Are they 30 feet from the stage? Are they touching it? Again, is it a bar? Because if so, their glass is right on top of it and they're going to experience it, on hand. So you really have to look at the placement. Again, I think priority, because I don't think every single thing in the room needs to be custom and over the top. I definitely think you can manipulate things, but then have that one really impactful piece that blends it all in.
I love
So I
that.
think that's again thinking about the material that we use is really important, but understanding what's out there because the market is so ever changing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I want to touch on what you mentioned about this job being so demanding on the people who work for you.
Yeah.
And this is maybe one of my last questions around scaling a business, building a business, but also maintaining a successful business is how do you build a team that's invested in your passion? How do you get that employee buy-in?
Oh goodness. I would say, um, well, I think it's about creating a vision for them. I think a lot of people can talk about culture, and I think that's really important. I think that's why a lot of people stay. But I think ultimately a lot of people stays because how's it making me feel? Where am I going to end up? Ryan's so good. Ryan's our CEO. He's so good about creating the vision. I manage the day-to-day operations. I think I touched this before when I was a wedding planner, making people feel happy every day. That trumped anything else that happened in my day. Now, I think that we really believe in our product. Our designers really believe in their designs. And when they're able to experience just for a few minutes when clients and guests enter that room and they get to see the look on their faces, I've literally almost seen one of my designers cry before. I mean, it just brings them so much joy. They're so passionate about what they do. Um, Even down to our installers and our guys in our shop. I mean, our installers, um, I've heard this so many time and time again. You guys are willing to go above and beyond. They really take, pride in their product. They don't walk away until it's done. I mean, there's been a couple times where I've been done. I'm like, okay, no, the client's not going to notice. Not because I was taking a step. We didn't need to take it to the next level. It was 3 a.m. That last coat of paint was already done. We're good. And one of my guys will stop me and say, no, we're going to do it the right way. And I just love that about them, that they're not willing. I mean, they're so willing to just pause and say, no, guys, it's a reminder. This is who we are and this is how we show up. But I really believe it is about vision, camaraderie. We're all in it together. I work the late nights just with them. It's very rare
Mm,
that I'll leave early. I see the night through with them, and I just think that that means something.
that's huge. Yeah, that leadership is huge. Definitely. Absolutely. That's respect that you can't otherwise get. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a lot of
I
it
always like
is.
to say that you wanna I say to my team, like, "I'm never going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself."
Yeah.
You know, they're
I think
gonna they're gonna step it up when they see you doing exactly what you expect them to do.
actually, if I could touch on one more, I'll let you on a little secret that we've been using as our hiring lately.
Yeah.
So, we honestly we weren't hiring very well for a little while there. I think we were inexperienced, we were growing fast, we're like, "Oh, we need people, let's bring them on."
Hiring is so hard.
It's so hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard. Now, I really started thinking about the people that were very successful at our company. I'm like, "What? Why is it working?" And so I came up with these 3 traits, and it's humility, hunger, and honesty. And I really find if one person has all 3 of these, they're super successful with us. Humility is like they're super grounded. They're open for collaboration. They're open for feedback and trust. And, while hunger is, we're in a freaking tough industry. You got to work weekends. You got to give everything up. You got to work like 80-hour weeks sometimes. And so that hunger is that fire that keeps them going and driving for more and better and just never really settling. And I love that. Um, and then honesty is just, the means of everything, the integrity, transparency on how we give each other feedback, I think is the core of everything. Um, Even when it's uncomfortable or when, somebody makes a mistake, it's like, how do we show up for each other? How do we communicate clearly? But yeah, those are the 3 things that I've recently found that also just help us grow our staff.
That's awesome. With all of those components, it also fosters an environment where people feel safe and they can trust their environment and they know where they're going. Um, and then feel brave enough to be vulnerable in their ideas and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's
I
so
hope
cool.
that.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. I honestly, Jess, when I asked you to be on this, like I didn't know our conversation would go this way. And I'm so excited it is because I love getting into what makes a business tick. And you're a great example of a business that's doing it so well. And you're inspiring on the outside, but like getting in on the inside is just even more inspiring. So cool. Um, okay, I want to go circle back to design a little bit.
Yeah, of
One
course.
question is, what is the craziest design request you've ever had and have successfully executed?
Um Recently, we just did a 200-foot snake that had to be rigged in a ceiling, for a corporate party. We
Wait,
had no idea how we were gonna build it.
wait, say that again? What?
So, for a corporate party, we had it was a year of the snake theme for this year.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're like, "We have to have a snake in the ceiling," and I think it might have been 240 feet, something like that. We had no idea how we were gonna build it. So we spent so much on R&D, just, like, months and months and months trying to understand. Well, we ended up buying a frog machine, which is a foam cutter. And so basically what we did is we cut the entire body out of foam, but we made ribs in it so that it could ebb and flow with the space. And then we did a custom print around the body and head of the snake, and then did a hard coating for the rattler and the eyes. I'll have to show you pictures. It was so fun. So that was a
Right.
recent one.
Right. Yes, please. I want to see pictures. That's wild.
We get asked all the time though. A fun one, this was a smaller one, but a fun one. We did a 5-foot, disco ball for a DJ booth for the Fountain Blue opening. That was fun. We built it in, like, 3 days. It was wild.
That's so cool. That's so
And then
cool.
we've also kinda dabbled in some, like, construction and retail. We don't do a lot of it, but, projects that early on for us is we worked with one of our clients on opening a private school. And it was very outside of our normal scope of work. Basically, what they needed is they needed all of the plant material that was in the school in a previous old building removed. and pavers installed. It was like 8,000 square feet, but they needed done like within a month, very fast. And so I think for pretty much all of that time, I was learning how to be a GC, researching construction, working with all the construction companies in the area, trying to figure out how to get like 8,000 pounds of, dirt out of the space. And it was wild. It was a lot. But that was the one that I think early on that I would say I was probably like not prepared for, but so happy we did.
Yeah. Do you have a wild idea that you're just dying to do and you're just waiting for an opportunity to do it?
My gosh. Well, we recently just did a pop-up tattoo, a flash tat studio. We pulled it off in 2 weeks, so
My
that will be
God.
coming out on Instagram. We'll be showing that, and that's for an art show. So every year we do, an exhibit at the Umbrella Art Fair, which is fun because we can do whatever we want, and this year I was like, "You know what? I want it to be something where people can come in, wear art when they go home," so we did. We had a flash tat studio, and that was fun. But I think ideas that we had, I don't know if they're this wild, but a goal that we have is we really want to do more public facing events, whether it's in collaboration or just something that we're creating. It's a full immersive experience. We're able to sell tickets, or honestly, we're just able to do it for the community because we want to give back. That's just
Yeah.
something that we really want to do.
That's so cool. I love it. Let's talk trend forecasting. Okay. So, right now, with all of the holiday entertaining, we're seeing Ralph Lauren inspired everything. Like, that's like everywhere. Everyone's all into Ralph Lauren. You recently posted that fabric wrapped walls might be the next big thing for 2026. So, tell us about that. What do you think there?
Yeah. So I feel like, well, first, I think to go back to the Ralph Lauren, I think that it's so timeless American, right?
I know.
It hits every box from refinement to approachable to um, masculine yet feminine in a lot of different ways. And I just feel like it's one of those things that are just never going to go away because it's
Yeah.
just too good.
It's comfort.
Yeah. And again, hitting that nostalgia, right? Especially right around Christmas, is everybody's wanting to draw up those feelings of something that they remember. So I think that
Yeah.
one's here to stay
Yeah.
for a while
Yeah.
every year. Gosh, big trends. I love the fabric wall approach because it's a little different than the fabric installations that you've been seeing. Do you think that florals will always play a big role, but I think everybody's starting to notice the importance of build outs and production, especially around architecture inside of a space, whether it's columns or arches or anything that can really frame out a space. So I do
Right.
think that's where I don't think that's going anywhere in 2026. If anything, I think people are going to be more interested on how to make it better and different than what they've seen in the past. Arches have now been here for a couple of years, so have columns. So what's next?
Yeah,
But I do think
like the
Mhm.
cladding of tent structures and facades and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's here to stay for sure. And I think what people are really looking for again is creating an environment that's not theirs. So we're like moving away from ballrooms. We're moving more into standalone buildings, a lot of tented spaces, because you can control that a little bit more. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Um,
honestly think too with all of this architectural columns and infrastructure that we're building within tents, I'm actually intrigued about bringing that into ballrooms because
yeah.
the expense of that is so great that I don't know. I love a climate controlled environment that we don't have to freak out when it's raining. And so if we're building that infrastructure already, like let's do it within four walls that are climate controlled and safe. And you might have a very similar outcome, at least when you're inside of that space.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are definitely all for it. Anytime I tell my guys we're working it, oh my gosh, all my tech friends are going to hate me for saying this, but when I tell our team that we're working in a 10, they're like, "Is it clear top? How hot is it? Where is it?" Because they know it's like 130 degrees on the ladder in there. So I'm all for climate control. No, I'm with you. And I'm curious, is it because brides who book a ballroom, are they a little less likely to be innovative, and maybe that's not the case, but I find DC, the market is a little more conservative here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it starts with the destination, and people who are coming to a destination inherently don't want to be in a ballroom. But if you are in a gorgeous spot where you can experience the beauty of the destination, maybe with ceremony and cocktail hour, and then you move inside for dinner, I always tell my clients, like, once the sun goes down, it doesn't matter where you are. So experience
Absolutely.
that destination. And if the venue has a gorgeous ballroom, or let me reverse, there are very few gorgeous ballrooms, right? So you'd have to come in with the mentality of, we are doing a complete transformation. And I encourage people not to be afraid of ballrooms if they can get that gorgeous destination feel. I'm not about a hotel ballroom in the middle of a city somewhere. You have to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, Reagan, absolutely. I think that, I mean, the same magic that we create in a tent can absolutely be translated to a ballroom. And I think what's even more important there is that you're now working within already designed components. And for me, I love having framework to work around. It's a lot harder as a designer to say, just do whatever you want instead of saying, oh, no, these are your constraints.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot easier because you have constraints, you know what the challenges are, and you can kind of get to work. Where the open box
Mhm.
is a little like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, then throw in wind and rain and all of those things. I'm really big on the creature comforts of how is the guest feeling. So even if it's pouring down rain, like, are their shoes getting ruined in that transition? Are they cold? Are they, what is it? No one will complain about being in a ballroom once the sun goes down.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I'm with
Yeah.
you on that.
What about design? Two questions. What is being overdone and what is being overlooked?
I'm gonna bring it back to where we started. What's being overdone is designs purely for photos and Instagram. For that intent, I think Instagram is such a great asset to my company. It is honestly, other than word of mouth, it is probably the number one business driver. So I'm not discounting the importance of it. However, when we design for Instagram and not and we overlook the guest experience, you don't feel the raw, nature of the
Yeah.
design. And I think
Yeah.
if I would say again, going back to problem solving for our clients, the client experience, and again, that reel that I said where it did so much better just watching guest reactions, walking into a space versus the design himself. I think that's what we're after.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. What about what's being overlooked as far as something that could be designed that people aren't thinking of?
Well, this seems like a silly one, but I feel like everybody forgets it in the space because it just ruins it. So it's a very small one. But the tech booth, can we please, dear God, cover the tech booth?
Yes. It's such an afterthought, but it's at every single event. Yes.
That's so
Yeah.
silly. I know that's not a big one, but I will design such a beautiful space and I'll walk in and I'll be like, that's just smack dab in the middle of nowhere, like right
Yeah.
there in the center. But no, really, if I could overlooked, I would love one thing that we've been really looking at recently too is figuring out how to do stage lights inside the stage. So doing drop zones where all of your backlighting can actually drop in so you're not seeing the hardware.
Mm.
Even your monitors on stage, I would love to have where we are building out a box that the monitor drops into. Doesn't mess with the sound. We'd obviously have to work with engineering on with any of the sound teams, but any hardware that I can get rid of in the space is truly actually what's next for me, what I'm after.
Yeah. Your photographers will thank you.
Yeah, I know they can do a lot of magic, but
Yeah. Well, to wrap things up, I like to ask my guests, what would you like to leave listeners with? What is your message? What is your top takeaway from this conversation?
um, well, I guess there's a couple of things. I would love to share that we are launching our first venue. It is a standalone historic building in the Navy Yard in DC. And the sole purpose of us getting this space is again going back to our root, creating experiences and memories for the community, and that's what we're doing. Going back to our work here at Social Supply, um, I guess if I was to give advice to a designer, it would to be not shy away from the hard things. 50% of the job is not looking at the pretty shit. It is
Yeah,
trying to figure out how to get it done. I know we talked a lot about a functionality. We talked a lot about, the philosophy around it of what is it making people feel. I think you need to concentrate a lot of time there before you get into the design. And that's where I would say that's the big piece a lot of people skip.
that's great. Brilliant. I love it. I love it. And where can people find your work? Socialsupplydesign.com and then Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram's usually our best. We're working on we're constantly updating our site. We do have some inventory online of our rental pieces that can be modified for any of our custom work. Definitely on our Instagram at Social Supply Design.
Awesome. Jess, thank you so much for joining me.
This was
I'm
so great.
so excited. I'm just taking notes. I cannot wait. I think people are going to get a lot of out of this. So thank you for joining me. And I'm so glad we sat next to each other at Ornament Exchange. Thank you, Lauren and Abby.
No, I'm so glad to know you and can't wait for another chat offline. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Reagan.